Welcome to the Black on Shelf podcast, a podcast championing Black and brown entrepreneurs on the digital and physical shelves. I'm your host, Tanaj Ferguson. This is Black on Shelf. So before we started the podcast, Beatrice and I were talking about how my sorority sister, my profile, Julie Wilson, was one of the people that already interviewed her. And I've binge listened to a number of other podcasts Beatrice has been on. Her story is very well documented. It's becoming very well documented. And I'm so excited. You're also going on year 10?
Yeah.
9, 10, right? 10 next month, August, make 10 years. So this is a great time with the Black on Shelf family, the Boss Fam, as they call it, for us to cover some key highlights and some pieces that folks haven't really heard from your story, some advice that your experience is uniquely great for. And so I'm excited to get on into it. One of the areas I love to start with is like, how, did I encounter this brand? And like me, like many others, around 2019, many others were last year, but for me, it was 2019 when you really came onto the mass retail scene. With Target. So, that was a very cool opportunity to see a Black woman on shelf, but more so, it was not only just about the color at that point, it was like women, a new product for women that was better, So it's going to be cool to kind of hear about how you got into that. And we'll do the overview version because your story is well documented, and we'll get to some other new parts that I haven't exactly heard just yet. So I'll let you tell us about your background, and we can go, into the origin of the brand from there.
My background is kind of all over the place. I right out of high school, I started working in pharmacy. I did that for nearly 10 years, and then I moved on to start a cleaning business that turned into like an organizing, food, cooking, all kinds of stuff business. Basically, I was just trying to survive. And then from there, I started working at Whole Foods because I kind of got tired of, of cleaning, to be honest. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of work on my body. And then from there, I worked at Whole Foods. And then from there, I became a broker. And then from there, I became a area sales manager for a kale chip company, and then did Honey Pot full time. But was doing Honey Pot from all the way from when I started at Whole Foods, So
what's funny is you said you left cleaning, but you're still cleaning. You're just cleaning other things now. Comes full circle. You're still cleaning.
Cleaning vaginas.
Now, right? Yes. The other thing is you did pharmacy, but you also had a pre-med degree. So you've kind of always been interested in science. No. Did you do pre-med?
I started pre-med, but I never started finished pre-med,
like a lot of us.
I didn't like school enough to finish. So
yeah, we feel you on that.
Yeah.
Did you finish school? Did you ended up finishing?
No, I never finished.
Oh,
no.
Wow. Okay. So it still worked out for you.
Yes, everything's working out.
In a grand way.
Thank you for saying that.
Of course. So you go work at Whole Foods. You became a broker. I didn't know that part. And area sales manager. So you kind of started to have some experiences that may influence, your exposure to the industry. Talk about how some of those experiences shaped kind of what you know now, what it didn't teach you, what it did. Just for those thinking, maybe similar positions, I'm not sure what I want to do. Maybe I'm doing a number of different things, exploring their multiple talents and interests. What were some of the things going through your head then? And now that you passed that, what could you have learned from that exploration? What did you learn from that exploration period of time, and some comfort you might be able to provide to those in that now? They don't, they're not at the level of Beatrice yet where it's all come full circle. They're still in the middle. What would you say to that?
Well, I mean, I don't really think there's any like levels per se. I think that we've just been working really hard, and and now we're in this moment, but we've been working for this moment, right? You know, so I think that the person that's just starting out is, I mean, they're busting their ass. They're doing the work that they need to do. And, you know, so I don't think that there's any levels, but, you know, but I do think that, I do think that, wait, can you, because there was a bunch of questions in there. So I just want to make sure.
So yeah, for someone, for, you know, you were able to explore your multiple interests. You did pharmacy, you did Whole Foods, a broker, it led to becoming a sales manager. What advice would you give to someone sort of navigating that period of exploring their interests, their career, and trying to find that North Star, whether it's by happenstance, fate, intentionality that leads them to building something?
Well, I'm grateful to say that everything that I did prepared me for this moment.
Yeah.
Like literally every single thing. Right. You know, and I think that everybody is really experiencing that, right? Pretty much anything that you're going to have to do in business, you've probably experienced that working for somebody else, you know, because it all applies, you know what I mean? So, you know, for it's just that the literal things that we had to do, you know, working in pharmacy taught me how to do the math to be able to create a formula. Cleaning people's houses taught me how to deal with customers. Working at Whole Foods also taught me how to deal with customers. And then, you know, and then also taught me, you know, a lot about herbs, and taught me about also, you know, how to really love on the humans that support your brand, because I feel like Whole Foods did that really well. Certainly. You know?
Yeah.
And then, you know, and then working as a broker, it literally was, you know, it literally taught me how to talk to a buyer. Working as an area sales manager taught me how to work for a startup, right? Yeah. You know, and so, and how to be kind of in the back end of what it takes to be a startup, because we were, you know, Rhythm Superfoods was a small company still, you know. Yeah. And so yeah, like every single thing that happened within my career has probably prepared me for this moment, you know. Yeah. And I think that it's important for us to kind of pay attention to what we're doing, because I'm sure if you're going to get into business, like I said, something that you're doing within your job or your career is preparing you for that.
I love that. And I think what I'm hearing you say is really that no experience was wasted. Whether you didn't have the full awareness of what you would do at that point. None of us do. We're living our lives in the present. Exactly. But no experience is wasted. You can find ways to really find the strengths and a jump off point for anything that you are doing. And, you know, you also go, as you go forward, you grow into other skills. So no experience. I think that is something good for folks to learn, especially those who are like spinning their wheels, feeling like, you know, they're not where they might want to be, or just have this larger vision. The great thing is, whatever you're doing right now, there's a way for that to be a part of your future.
And things take time.
That too.
Right? Like, yeah. You know, like I feel like we don't give enough glory to the hard times, to when you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, to when, you know, when you got to figure out how your next move is going to be made. I mean, because the real shit is you're always doing that shit, right? You know, your money may not be the issue at one point in your life, right? But you're still having to figure things out, right? You know, and I feel like we get so wrapped up at looking at our age, and I thought that I would be here by now or there by now. And it's like, if that's what you want to be, then do what you have to do to get there. Right. Yeah. Right. But be grateful that you're even here, that you're alive, that you're well, that you can say that, you know. I just think it's important, you know, and to go back to what you were talking about earlier, you know, when you think about levels, to not really assign anything a level,
That's
You
good.
know, I mean,
We're so used to
you
thinking
can't,
of the next
nah, man.
step, but you're looking at it more of as a journey, which is also a perspective shift,
Yeah,
right? You're where you're
yeah,
supposed to be. So it's not about levels, it's about a journey and you finding your progression in your journey.
yeah. And if the context of levels didn't have a little bit of a negative connotation to it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then it wouldn't be so bad.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like when you hear levels, it's like
the staircase
it's
going up.
It's all, yeah, it's like a staircase going up, but understand that like anything can happen to push you down. And in order to get from point A to point B, you got to go through A first, you know? It's not a what's that saying? It's a sprint, not a race, or something like that. Like
it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Like this shit takes time. You know, you bust your ass long enough, you do the things you need to do. There's a little bit of luck. There's a lot of focus. There's a lot of, you know, and what I'm about to say is cliche. There's a lot of grit. There's a lot of tenacity. There's a lot of hearing no. There's a lot of believing in yourself. There's a lots of shit that has to happen in the middle of that. There's a lot of no's. You know, there's a lot of like people shitting on you or thinking that you're, you know, making you be like, giving you kind of the little man complex. And you know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of that that's going to go on, but that's okay.
Yes. So talking about the origin story, all of this happens in your life. You're at Whole Foods. You also become a broker. You do the area sales manager. I know from, your previous versions of your stories that partly at Whole Foods, the origins of the brand starts to come to life. So talk to us about that for those who have not heard your story. Tell us a little bit about, your take on your origin story for the brand.
My take on
experiences that led you to building the brand.
My take on it is that I am extremely grateful for my vagina acting up and going crazy.
Ultimately, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm grateful for my subconscious reaching out to my grandmother to say, hey, she needs a little bit of help, you know. So I'm my only reaction is grateful.
Yeah.
But I basically had BV for almost a year, bacterial vaginosis for almost a year. There are people that have had it way longer than me. I know because I've met a lot of those people.
Okay.
And literally nothing that I did worked. And and I went to the doctor. I took medicine. I got on Google. I put all kinds of things in my vagina. Like if I could Google the shit, I was willing to try it. Right. If I got on the forum and somebody was like, this worked for me, I was like, run it. I'm gonna see if that works for me, you know.
Yeah.
But but it didn't.
Yeah. For those who don't know, bacterial vaginosis, does it always come with kind of, women tend to, when I think of BV, I tend to think of like, okay, the fish smell, that's kind of what you hear. Does it always come with some of that? Like, what was your year-long experience? Because I imagine that's kind of why you're so passionate about this as well.
You know what it smells like? It smelled like, and this is going to be funny, but it's real. It smells like collard greens. It's weird. Yeah, it had like it had a very a bit of a rancid smell. Yeah, and it comes with a decent amount of discharge.
Okay.
And because it has a scent to it, you're just hyper aware, right?
Yeah,
like you
so
go
you were
to the
self-conscious. Yeah,
you're so self-conscious. You don't want to have sex. You don't want to, like it
disrupts your lifestyle. Yeah,
it definitely disrupts your lifestyle because whenever any of if your sex organs are acting up, right?
Yeah.
And that's just being human. It is just an uncomfortable experience because you have to go to the bathroom, you have to go pee, you have to you have to do these things multiple times a day. So you're experiencing yourself multiple times a day, and it's just not pleasant.
No. Right.
And
so that was really driving you to find solution or try solution after solution.
Exactly. And like I said, nothing worked. And it would always come right after I got my period.
Okay.
And that's typically what happens for a lot of people. And the reason for that is because when you get your period, the blood in your body, blood is alkaline. So when you're going to get your cycle, your pH naturally rises. But what happens is if your pH was off to begin with, which is really what causes for bacterial vaginosis to happen, it's when the pH balance is off. So your vagina isn't making enough lactic acid that then makes the good bacteria, which is the Lactobacillus acidophilus.
Okay.
And then, so you have this, because it's typically like a yin and a yang. You're going to have good bacteria, you're going to have bad, but you need to be producing more good than you're producing bad, right? And what happens when your
probiotics are the good bacteria.
Exactly. And so what happens when your pH is off is you don't have enough protection because you're producing more bad than you are good.
Gotcha.
Right.
Which then causes an infection.
And really it's whatever the bacteria that you're susceptible to. Right. For my instance, it was bacterial vaginosis. For somebody else, it could be candida, which is yeast. Okay. For somebody else, it could be a UTI. Right. It just, everybody's different. Right.
Yeah.
And the circumstances are different, but nothing that I did worked. And so I had a dream with my grandmother, and she handed me a piece of paper. It had a list of ingredients. She told me to memorize it. I did. I woke up memorizing it. Like I woke up saying it.
No.
And, I wrote it down, made it within a couple of days because I worked at Whole Foods. Everything that was on the list was natural.
Yeah.
And I made it within a couple of days, and 4 to 5 days later, everything I was dealing with went away because I had BV at the time. And I noticed that I didn't have an odor. I noticed that I didn't have a bunch of heavy discharge. I noticed that I just I didn't have that uncomfortable, unbalanced feeling. It just doesn't feel right. Yeah. I didn't have that anymore. And I was like, oh shit. And then here we are.
Yeah. I mean, you basically, this experience, it was so uncomfortable that it also forced you into knowing everything about probably pH, the vagina, products, ingredients, because you're trying and learning everything.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that's also why you're so grateful, because it's kind of the experience and the pain point so extremely that you became a student of all of the factors of it all.
Exactly. And naturally, I think naturally, I just understand, in some ways, naturally, I am a bit of a healer. And so it's easy for me to wrap my mind around issues with the body.
Restoring, recovering, healing.
It's easy for me to wrap my mind around that kind of stuff. And like you said, because it's been so hyper-focused on vaginal health, obviously over the years, I've paid attention and I am a student of it even till today. Absolutely. I don't know everything about it, but I do know a few things, which I'm grateful to say.
Love that. What's the reaction from customers who, experience that relief, and they thank you? What have been some of those testimonials, or like, to what extent have you helped people?
I mean, there's been some pretty crazy, amazing, beautiful and sad testimonials. I mean, I remember a testimonial from a girl who was raped.
Wow.
And she had bacterial vaginosis on and off for 9 or 10 years, something like that. And, a series of other things happened, and she started using our wash, and she had the same exact experience that I did. Wow. There's people that have used our pads and say, that they would have like terrible, terrible, terrible cramps. But now that they use our pads, it's not as bad. I remember when we first got started, there was a young girl and her mom, and the young girl was the one that used the wash. I mean, I think her mommy did too, but and she had what are called vaginisms. Okay. And vaginisms is where basically where the opening of your vagina is at risk of closing. And
Wow.
yeah, and her daughter started using our wash. And when she took her back to the doctor, because she would have to go to the doctor almost every month, you know, her doctor said whatever she was doing was working. She said the only thing that she had changed was that she was using the honey pot wash. Now I'm not claiming,
Right,
because we can't say that honey pot can cure diagnose or anything like that. I'm just telling you the
the
testimonials
testimonial, yeah.
that we
So
have.
it's, I mean, that's pretty significant just to have someone believe that this has helped them, knowing that in their routine and their regimen, that's the only different thing they did, you know.
Exactly.
And you know, you have been known to have the first plant-derived feminine wash system or feminine care system, you know, as a totality. From an industry standpoint, why did you develop the brand architecture in this way? I know this is, you know, as a brand manager, I kind of looked at the industry. You're the only one that has more of that complete system that covers the depth and breadth, you know, of feminine care or personal care. Why did you design it that way? I think that is an interesting business structure, you know, that really has worked for Honey Pot.
Because I think that humans with vaginas want that, right? Like you want to be able to think about when you were a kid, right? You use what your mommy told you to use.
Yeah.
Whenever she had that talk with you, right? And typically people just stick to that because that's what my mom used and that's what she told me to use, even if it wasn't an in-depth conversation, right? You know, but I feel like if you know me, then you know that for me, if I'm not gonna take it all on, then from why am I even doing this? You know?
Yeah.
So for me, you know, if we're not gonna globally look at vaginal wellness, education, care, love,
Holistically,
you
right.
know, support, if we're not going to take all of that on, then what are we doing? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
we want to be a responsible brand. You know, not only because we want people to buy our products, right? Like for me, I want you to choose Honey Pot because you really, really set with the brand, because the shit really, really, really works for you, right? You know, don't make me wrong. We have shareholders, we have people to answer to, but it's so important to me that our products work.
Yeah.
You know, it's so important to me that our products are made with clean ingredients. It's so important to me that they're scientifically backed. It's so important to me, you know, that we have causes that we invest in, you know, that are bigger than us. You know, it's just important to us that that we really stand behind what we're doing. And if we're going to take on the vagina, it makes sense that we really encompass all the things that a human with a vagina will need in her lifetime to care for herself, right?
Yeah. I also love how inclusive you've made this. You know, it's 2021, but you know, you had this foresight from when you started the company almost 10 years ago, recognizing that we have all types of, you've been saying humans with vaginas. There's many different people, or there's many different humans that identify in different ways, but they still have personal care needs that Honey Pot can cover. Talk to us about when was that something you decided would be a key staple for the brand, and how you talk to consumers?
Actually, when we first got into Target, we actually got into, like, a lot of people thought we got into Target in 2019. Really, we got
I
into
did
Target in
too.
2007.
Oh
No,
my
yeah,
gosh.
we got
Okay.
into Target in 2017.
Okay.
And
Wow.
yeah, and the agency that we were working with at the time, when they were developing kind of all of our taglines and rebranding and doing all that, you know, that was one of the things, because we would spend a lot of time together, you know, and we would spend a lot of time talking and vibing, and she was constantly, you know, just, you know, working with me and just asking me a million questions. And
that was an
and
insight she found, huh?
it
Like
was an
that
insight
you
she found
realized this was more than
that
just
we,
for the traditional woman that a lot of
yeah,
other brands were acknowledging.
exactly. That was an insight that she found, and made by humans with vaginas for humans with vaginas. And it made sense, and it was concise, and it was beautiful, and it was elegant, and it was right to the point. And it still sits with us today.
Awesome. I love that. So, one of the things I'm interested in is, I noticed that you really have strong experience when it comes to trade shows. And part of how you started was, creating product for a trade show, Bronner Brothers Hair Show, right? That was one of the first places you went to sell. Talk to us about what the value of those trade shows were for you when you were starting up. I know you mentioned before that you basically were able to start up with $20,000, and one of the first places you spent that was preparing for this trade show and the orders there. And then you followed up with going to others like Natural Expo, Indie Beauty Expo, and maybe a few others. But if you could talk to us about that first one. You did a lot, right? So what has been the value of that? And when you thought about the beginning, let's cover the beginning of, this brand and why you decided to let that be one of the first places you would go, and how you've continued to leverage trade shows to grow. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, it was, you have to understand, we didn't have a lot of money, right? And when your trade shows quickly became our strategy, when we saw that we sold 600 bottles in a weekend at Bronner Brothers Hair Show, right? And when you go to one hair show, they're marketing to you about the next hair show. And what we noticed is all the trade shows, hair shows, expos, all the things that we would do, there was never anybody else there that was talking about what we were talking about. So we really stood out. It gave us the opportunity to get in front of thousands and thousands of people in a matter of 2 to 3 to 4 days. And it just made sense because we didn't have the capital to go out and market to all those people, so that was our business strategy, really. And it actually it paid off because it helped us to organically build our community. And it costs money, but typically you would make your money back, even if typically we would be profitable in those particular trade shows. So if we spent, $10,000 doing it, or 3,000 or 5,000 or 6,000, we typically make that money back. We may have only been profitable $100, but it didn't matter. We made the money back, and we were able to get in front of that many people and get that many email addresses and that many people on Instagram,
Right.
So it was just our business model because that was what we had,
Yeah. For that first show, how soon after you had developed like your marketable version of your product, how many SKUs was it? And what was the time frame where you're like, all right, we're ready to go. We're going to do a trade show. This is from your inception to getting it to your first trade show. What was that time period for you, if you can remember?
I think August of 2012 was when we created the articles of incorporation for the company. February of 2014 is when we went to the Bronner Brothers Hair Show.
2014?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So pretty much a 2-year turnaround time,
give or take.
Give or take. What was the development like for this? You have a background in being able to work on formulas. And in fact, in your dream, you got the formula. What was that process?
I got the ingredients. I got the ingredients in the dream. I didn't get the formula.
So you still had to make the formula.
Yeah.
What was that process like? The ingredients, but you still need to formulate the products, and you had to think about what products would you, what application, a lot of the details that would need to go into building this product.
It was a process. I mean, I didn't know the chemical compound of it being a foam. It was a cold blended formula, which made it easy to make because you can literally just pour the ingredients from the bottles into a container, mix it a certain amount of times. Right. Obviously now it's much more, it's much more detailed, and chemists have gotten involved and manufacturers have gotten involved in all those things. But, but then it was just like figuring it out, doing the work. We were putting it in pickle jars and going to Whole Foods and buying the cute little blue bottles and squeezing it out, but then that
Yeah.
didn't work because it's a foam. You know, we were putting it in spray bottles. We were just trying all kinds of stuff to figure out what was going to work and what wasn't. You know, and it worked out.
Yeah,
You know,
experimentation.
it was just a lot of trial and error and giving it away and you know, because it couldn't be too strong, it couldn't be too weak. It had to kind of be just right. And then that's what kind of pushed us to develop a few different types of formulas. You know, it started out as like mommy, preggers, normal for younger ladies. I mean, we went through so many iterations of names, you know, so it was just like,
and that's
constant.
okay, right? You may not
It's
come up
okay.
with
I mean,
the final product on the first, you probably won't on the first try, but it's about continuing to
sister,
iterate.
it's, you know, the thing that people don't understand is that iterations can happen even up until now. You know, like anything can change, right? And you make the change, you do what you need to do. You know, the learning never, ever, 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 ever stops. Ever, never. It's constant. It's constant trying to make things better, constant moving forward, you know, constant focus. It's constant and it doesn't stop. So you know, you just have to be in it for the long haul.
Yeah, no, that's important. So, you know, there's the question that always comes up with emerging entrepreneurs is around funding or how to grow. You know, in your case, you were able to start off first with a small family, friends, yourself, you know, you and your brother and a friend. At what point in your business and what did you take outside investment and what triggered that for you?
When we got the opportunity to go into Target, that's when we did our first, our like a proper family and friends round. And then once we were in Target and we really needed to grow, you know, that's when we took money from New Voices Fund.
Yeah. How much learning did you have to do to go through that process? You know, it was your first time raising funds. What was that like? Because I think a lot of people want funding, but you know, don't have any idea of like, oh, what actually is it? Now that you've
We
gone
didn't have
through
any
it,
idea
what was it?
it was gnarly. It was crazy. It was hard. The thing about funding that's really amazing is that you just get good at it because it becomes your job, you know?
Yeah.
And I was lucky to have Simon because he went to Bentley University and he was an accountant and had worked in all types of industries and understood money and understood all of the kind of the jargon, you know. So when we were walking into these rooms to pitch to venture capitalists and they were talking about things, like I didn't have to even handle that part of the conversation because he just knew it so well. When we had to put together numbers and decks, you know, and reports, he knew how to do that, you know. And so
and Simon is Beatrice's brother, for those who don't
co-founder,
know. And co-founder, yes.
Yeah. But even still, it was our first time ever doing that.
Yeah. So he had skills, and that you had complementary skills. You had the vision, you knew the product, you are human with a vagina. So you got that part. And Simon was able to handle some of the business strategy pieces as well, and the financial pieces.
And the real thing is you just you just figure it out.
Yeah.
Honestly. You know, and once you pitch to 10 investors and they're all asking for similar reports or similar numbers, then you're like, oh, okay, this is a thing. So that's what I need. That's what our pitch deck needs to look like next time, right? You just learn as you go, you know. And even if you don't have somebody like Cy, right? Maybe
he just
you can
smiled,
find
by the way. I can't see him, but he just smiled because you call him Cy. You can call me Cy.
Yeah, he just gave peace sign. Even if you don't have that, you know, you can find that because there are agencies out there that can act as a CFO. And then, or, not necessarily a person who's like a bookkeeper, but somebody who is an accountant who manages high net worth individuals. If you know somebody like that, right? If you can befriend them, if you know somebody that knows somebody, I feel like raising capital and all these kinds of conversations these conversations are happening left and right. So, and LinkedIn is a thing. Like, you have to understand, when we got started, most of the resources that are here today were not
this
there.
was 10 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, it's less than 10 years, but still, when you think about, since we've been raising the way that we have, so it's just kind of like, you just get good at it. You just have to keep doing it.
And honestly, I think that should be of comfort to the boss fam. Like, you don't have to already know it if you don't. That may never be your expertise,
No.
Yeah, and you don't have to do it alone because you were able to find someone, and like you just mentioned, these other resources. Do that to make it move forward.
Yeah. And and don't make me wrong. Don't let me make this shit sound easy, because it's not.
No, and I think you showed us it wasn't easy, but you definitely have persisted, over the years.
Yeah, and you're gonna hear no 1,000 times before you hear yes. So your your skin has to be thick. You cannot give a fuck about the no's. You have to know your business. You got to know your strategy. You got to know how you want to grow. You got to know how you want it to end. Right? You need to know who your comps are. Who are you trying to build? What business models you're going after? I don't know technology or anything, but I can tell you, in products, you really need to understand your business. You need to understand how you're going to grow it. Who are the retail partners? What are the products that you want to make? Like, there's so much. You just have to, if you're in your business, if you know it, if you're focused, if your objective is to make it massive, which if it's not, what the fuck are you doing? Right? That's you probably shouldn't be raising money if that's not the case, then you're going to figure it out. You will because you have to.
When did you go full time, where you were working on this eat, sleep, breathing? This was the only thing you were doing. What was that process look like when you were, for one, tell us when you were straddling it with other things, what that experience was like, and then what was the indicator for you to go full time in the business?
The indicator when it was time to go full time is when Honey Pot could afford to pay me more than what I was making. And then I think it was July 2018 is when I went full time.
Yeah. And what were you juggling? Was this Whole Foods or was this area sales management at the time?
It was all, for everything from Whole Foods on was what I was juggling.
Okay. Yeah. So you can do it juggling multiple things. What's your philosophy on? You go first.
And I think I know what you're about to ask. In fact, I think that you should do it.
I was going to ask you. Yeah.
Because when your business starts to grow, it's gonna be like you got fucking 5 jobs, right? So I feel like you should do it. I feel like you should have to work a full-time job and still run your company full-time, so that you can be in the fucking gym pumping that muscle, man. Because if you know how to do that, because that's the type of all that you have to give it. I mean, when you're really doing it, I mean, you have to give it almost. It's not like a baby in that. I mean, I say this all the time. Your business is a fucking business. It does not care about you, right? It doesn't give a fuck about you, right? You know what it's more like? It's more like a dog. Because your dog you have to buy food for your dog. You have to give your dog water. You got to take your dog out for a walk. You take the emotion and the love that you have for your dog out of the conversation. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't have love for your company, because there should be some love there, because you have to give it love so that love goes to the consumer that that you're making the products for, right? There has to be good in what you do, because that communicates on to everybody else. But a company requires you. it needs everything you got.
Yeah. And the reality is most people are not, at least in our community, are not able to just jump into doing that full time.
Most people.
And at the beginning, like you said, maybe you don't even need to.
Most people in a lot of communities are experiencing
a lot of
that,
communities,
right? And I think there's this misconception. Don't make me wrong. I'm not saying that it's not easier for you to raise money if you're a white man who graduated from Stanford, or one of the top Ivy League schools.
Right. Because we know that is also so.
It is so, but it's also so that there may be a white man or a white woman that's raising money and cannot fucking find a penny.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That is also the case.
That's also true.
Right. I may have more what's the word I'm looking for? In that case, I may be further along than they are. Right. So don't think that, look, raising capital, running a business is hard no matter what color your fucking skin is. And it's important that we understand that, and that we don't go into these conversations with race in our mind.
Yeah.
Get that shit out of your head. Is it going to be a case where race is going to come up? Is it going to be a case where somebody like little guys you because of the color of your skin, or because you're a girl, or because you're whatever? Sure, it's going to happen, right? But it can happen under any circumstances. It just may show up under a different guise, So it's really important that we go into these things knowing our business, knowing what we want to communicate, knowing how we want to raise our business. No, you know what I mean? It's really important that we come from that place.
Yeah.
So that you can be overly abundant when you go into that.
Did you have criteria for who you wanted to align yourself with from an investment period, from an investment standpoint? Did you feel like you had those options to choose?
No, not in the beginning. No, you don't. And in fact, in the beginning, that's not a thing you want to do, because you need to grow. You don't have time to be fucking picking and choosing. You need the bread. Whoever's willing to give it to you, right? Like
under the right circumstances,
circumstances, try not to take any shady deals, which we have, and that's just the name of the game. That's how you learn, unfortunately. You got to have the money to grow.
Yeah.
Right. And whatever fish you can get on that hook, unfortunately, in the beginning, you kind of got to take the fish.
Yeah.
Put that shit on the grill and eat it. Put the shit on the grill and eat it. Put some lemon juice and some salt and pepper on it and call it a day. Yeah, because you may not get another fish. Right. And in the beginning, you just can't really afford that. If your story is like ours was,
Yeah. How has that changed now that you've proof is in the show for you now? You're in multiple channels, Omnichannel for that matter. What does that look like for you now?
It's changed quite a bit now.
Yeah.
It's a horse of another color now.
Yeah. Another thing that's interesting, you are a co-founder with your brother. What is building a company with your family member? I feel like we hear a lot, don't do business with your family. What has been your experience?
True. It's been wonderful.
Yeah.
And there's ups and there's downs, and there's moments where you don't like each other.
Yeah.
And it's not because I'm in the room.
No, it's not because he's in the room. But it's beautiful because it's just love. It's kind, and it doesn't really want anything from you,
And we both have separate interests, right? Yeah. So he's an innovator. She grows. She thinks about where we're going, and I'm a tooler. So we have just opposite skills.
Complementary skills. Yeah, that was from the beginning. Yeah.
Exactly. My brain does not do what Sai's brain does, right? I'm very much I'm a big thinker. I'm not in the fucking details. I'm just not. I'm not I barely know how to even use this computer. Honestly, I don't.
You're not tech savvy.
I don't. I'm not tech savvy, right? You know, to this day, whenever I gotta go on an Instagram live, I'm like, shit, what am I supposed to do? You know, like I'm not you know, and I don't, you know, don't ask me to build a spreadsheet. Like I can make an Excel sheet, but it'll be a very elementary one, right? Like,
you know your strengths. And I think that's so important, because I think a lot of people feel pressured to have all the skills, and that keeps them from sometimes finding that co-founder or seeking that help. You seem to very freely be able to say, I acknowledge what I'm great at. I'm going to do that. I'm going to try to do that as much as possible.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to do that really well. Because to me, it's a waste of my time to try to do some shit mediocre. Yeah. Right. If Sai knows how to be a master, as an expert at doing something, I want him to do that. And then I need to be the expert at what I'm doing. And then whatever he and I can't be the expert at, that's where our team is going to come in. Right. Yeah. And at this point, you know, we have a whole leadership team that, you know, is a whole panel of experts. Right. And so we don't have to, you know, we still definitely have to have our heads in the game. We need to know the direction, all those types of things. But, you know, at this point, I'm grateful to say, you know, we have a really, 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 really good team. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they're really good at what they do. They know how to manage their teams. Yes. They know how, you know, and those things matter, you know, but having the complementary skills is everything.
That is everything. Were you the person hiring each consecutive person?
No, that was Simon.
Wow. Okay. So you guys,
I mean, now we hire together. Mm-hmm. But in the beginning days, like, no, I was doing all of that. You know, he's technical. He's like, he knows how to, like, technically, he knows how to get from 0 to 100. Mm-hmm. Right. I just know that this is what I think 100 looks like. And then he knows how to build.
You're the visionary.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think he's a visionary too. But he's just technical. He knows how to do it. Mm-hmm. And you know, I may not know how to do it. Yeah. I just know what my version of what needs to be done. And that may not even be, that may be right, or that may be wrong. Right. And a lot of times he knew if something was right or wrong, you know? And so because he had been in business, he knew, he went to the best school for accountancy, right? Like, mm-hmm. had 4 master's degrees, like had been to business, all the things, right? So like, and I'm just like straight up hard knocks, like, you know, and so, you know, so I think it evened each other out. Yeah.
Yeah. That I really love that you all are able to use your skills in a complementary way. We talked about mm-hmm. some of the experiences, you know, you've had with Honey Pot, but I'm curious, what would you say are maybe some of your top 3 personal and business milestones for Honey Pot that you're like, you know, you really felt like those cemented something, those meant something to you, those pushed the business forward? What would you say are some of those moments that really for you feel like, man, that was like a true milestone for us?
Us getting off the ground.
Yeah, that's a big one.
was you know, it's literally like filing articles of incorporation. That's big. It is. You know, people see that as small, but like a lot of times it's the little tedious shit. Mm-hmm. It's things like starting your business, right? So that was the first milestone. Mm-hmm. And then I think the second milestone was us willing to go and kind of tell the world that we were here, which is when we went to the Bronner Brothers hair show. And then I think our third milestone was when Target graced us with their shelves. Yeah. And we were able to have an innovation partner and just a partner overall that believed in what we were doing, that could really help to catapult our brand.
Yeah, those are some good milestones. I'm glad you mentioned the one about Target, because, you know, something special happened with that one. and I'm curious for you to tell us more about that and how that might look for others, but you had a certain amount of products and you were actually pitching a whole brand through Mockups. That's very creative. And I think that's important as a new company to really, get them to see your vision and say, give me, see what I'm seeing and like see the opportunity for me to really take over the space. Tell me about how that happened.
Oh, that's funny. That happened with me spending like $800 or $1,000 of Simon's money on his $2,500. Excuse me. And that was expensive, right? Like it was because I didn't have any money. I was using his money. It was on our credit card, and but I knew, just because of my experience in pitching to buyers, you never want to meet a buyer with something that's on a computer screen. Mm-hmm. It's not real and it's not tangible. But if somebody can hold something in their hands and pump the product out, or open the pack up, touch it, feel it, right? Even if it's just a prototype, that shit could have just been some dish soap and some water. But as long as that shit foamed, right? Mm-hmm. And as long as it was in a bottle that had packaging on it, right?
Labels, everything. Mm-hmm.
Labels and everything. It has a different experience. You feel like it's real. Yeah. And not only that, those buyers are not stupid, right? Because this is what they do all day. If you're going to show up in a room with a buyer at one of the biggest retailers in the world, right? If you show up with a computer screen mock-up, they already think that you're not ready.
Yeah.
And very likely you're not. Nobody is. Getting into mass market retailer is like having a fucking kid. Like nobody's ready for that. Mm-hmm. Honestly, especially when it's your first one and you don't have no fucking money. Nobody's ready for that. Right.
Yeah.
And so, so I knew that we already weren't ready, and we could not present as though we were not ready. Yeah. We had to present as though we were ready, even though it was going to be hard, even though we didn't know what it was going to take. We had an idea. We didn't want to fuck up this opportunity. And let me show you let me just show you where my head is going for the brand. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that you have to bring all of this in today.
Right.
Right. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that you need to bring all of this in today. But I just want you to just dream with me, because that way, if you can dream and we can both be holding it and it be tangible, then you're like, oh shit, okay, you came in here ready, even though we both know that we're not ready. Yeah.
So what did you bring to them that was actually something that you had formulated, would actually be ready to go tomorrow? And what did you show them that was more, come along with me, we can do this if you say yes, I'll work on this for you?
It was our washes. That was the only thing that was ready.
Right, the original.
And then we had, and then we had our wipes. But we had been talking to a wipe manufacturer already for like maybe 3 or 4 months prior to us even getting this opportunity. And we were also talking to manufacturers about the washes too, because it was getting to a place where we just couldn't make enough, and we needed to transition to a manufacturer, right? Mm-hmm. And so, and maybe I just felt it. Maybe I just felt like something was going to happen. I don't fully remember, but but our washes was ready. Our wipes were not developed, but we were talking about it. And then our herbal menstrual pads were something that we knew we wanted to go into.
Right.
And so that was the 3 lines that we went into that Target meeting with, and we had a physical meeting with Monique. Mm-hmm. And that's what we showed. And we ended up getting, in one way or another, we ended up getting all of that on the shelf.
Yeah. Yeah. That is awesome. So personal care is an interesting category from a regulation standpoint, because I know just from an industry standpoint, I'm a brand manager by day in the CPG industry. You're able to, anything natural, you're able to get in without having to have all the trials. what was your experience like kind of commercializing your own process at a small scale level when you were just mostly doing direct to consumer, and then, you know, finding a way to expand that? What's your thoughts on that? And what was your experience on that? And what's your thoughts on how others can do that, what they should be thinking about if they're trying to do that as well?
When you say that, do you mean as far as trials go? Or do you mean
as far as the commercialization, so the manufacturing and production on your own initially, and then you know, you were able to leverage a contract manufacturer, or yeah, you were able to leverage a contract manufacturer over time?
Yeah, I mean, if you're coming up like we were, I actually think that it's great that we started off doing it ourselves, because we were able to just like really connect to the product, you know. We were able to like really be there with it and make it and understand it. So when you go in to talk to a contract manufacturer, you're not coming from zero. You're coming from like I know how to make this shit. I may not know how to make it
at scale.
I may not know how to make it for mass market. Like I may not be able to mass produce it, but I know how to do it though, right? And here is my formula in kitchen, you know, in kitchen measurements, but still they're able to take that and kind of go from there. You know, at this point, that's not how things start anymore. They start with a chemist, but they do start from a place of me knowing what I want the product to be, what the ingredients I want it to feature, how I want it to feel, what I want it. And I feel like if you've made products before, you can actually have a real intelligent, tangible conversation with a chemist, even though you're not a fucking chemist. Right? Because if you've made your own shea butter, for example, you're going to know how to talk to that chemist about how
the
you
properties.
Want your shea
I wanted to emulsify or smoothness or the different variations to how to make yours unique. No, that's great. I also love that you did start off small and in a commercial kitchen or in a space, and then elevated, because that's also what folks need to recognize. Like, you don't grow overnight. You literally process, even though, you know, many of them would have not seen that. This could be them as well. If you're in a kitchen right now and you're making something, or if you're making something at home, this could be you if you take the right steps for your business. But you know, that's very accessible that you started it in a normal kitchen, in a commercial kitchen.
Yeah, I mean, it was not even a commercial kitchen. It was a fucking kitchen, you know, in a house. It was not even a commercial kitchen, you know, but so yes, it is tangible, and it can be anybody that chooses to take it on. You just have to understand that you know, it is a monster, and it is real, and it takes time. And if you want to be that mass market household name, you know, the level of intention and sacrifice and focus and willing to do whatever it takes is a thing. And it's not instant. It's not instant, you know, and it does take time. And you want it to take time. I mean,
you gotta be ready for the growth, you know, like when growth comes.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Most of the time, you're not ready for the growth.
Well, right. And you've said that a couple times, even in this conversation.
Like we when we went viral, in which we do not have to have that conversation unless you really want to. But when we had that viral moment, we weren't ready for that. You know, I mean, we didn't
have your viral moment, because I feel like there might have been a couple, but where did you notice, like, man, something
the viral moment was when everything happened with Target, which is why you thought that when we got into Target was just last year, you know.
In 2019. So you were there from 2017, but a lot of people are feeling like they really saw this increased shelf presence. What do you attribute to our perception of, no, we didn't see
because it was on the news. It was in the news. It was in newspapers. It was on
PR in the morning show.
It was on Dr. Oz. It was on The Real. I mean, the press tour that went out for that was insane, right? So it makes sense. I mean, we didn't have money to have that kind of marketing and that kind of appeal. We didn't have that.
Yeah.
So that the fact that that happened told everybody that we were there. Sure, a lot of people knew that we were there, but there were still millions of people that didn't know that we were there.
Yeah,
you know,
it's mass market. So you got to kind of tell people you are there. They don't always, it's funny, you don't always see what's literally on the shelf unless you're the type of person who literally studies a certain segment.
Especially in that part of the store, you know?
Yeah, no, that's interesting. So I'm curious for you, what is the next frontier for Honey Pot?
Man, our next frontier is just keeping our head down, focus, running our company, making sure that we have products to deliver.
Yeah.
Building our foundation, understanding, you know, what we're doing well, what we're not doing well, and then figuring out how to do it well. You know, that's where we are. We're not, you know, obviously there's new innovations every year, you know, building our team, building our shelf presence, building our relationships with our humans that use our products, building our relationships with our retailers. But honestly, you know, building our relationships with our organizations that we invest in.
What are some of those organizations that you invest in? Just so that we are aware.
Alafia Foundation is one of them, which, you know, the part of their foundation that we invest in is the birthing clinics.
Okay.
And basically what they do is they offer, in some of the worst parts, I don't even want to call them the worst parts, but some of the poorest parts of Togo and in West Africa, where people don't have access to figuring out to prenatal vitamins.
Yeah.
Where one clinic in a village might serve 5, 10, 20,000 people, right? In what is a shack, right? Where women are having babies on the floor.
Yeah.
Right.
You're serving their most challenged part of
we're serving their most challenged part, where, you know, where some of these humans, some of these women, you know, their husband may not believe in doctors, so they have to figure out how they're going to see a doctor, right? Where they may not even have access to a prenatal vitamin, making sure that they have access to those things, making sure that the clinics have some of the tools and resources that they need to make sure that they can serve all of these humans, right?
Yeah.
And then the Georgie Badiel Foundation, that foundation is super dope. Georgie Badiel builds wells in Burkina Faso, water wells, because Georgie actually, she lives in the States now, but she grew up in Burkina Faso. Okay. That's where she was born and raised. And she would walk, you know, 3 to 6 hours a day to find water with her grandmother early in the morning. And, you know, and the reason for that is because they didn't have water in their village. Yeah. Right. So in order for you to get water, you got to walk to it. And the crazy thing is, even though you may walk to it, you're sharing the same water that the animals are sharing, that everybody is sharing. This water isn't even clean water. Right. And so what Georgie Badiel does is she builds water wells. We actually just invested in their drill. They're about to start drilling for water wells. And then she also teaches women in the village how to fix their water wells, right? Because there's lots of water wells that just stop working. And a lot of times when you see people investing in foundations, they're not necessarily, right? Like they may go build a water well and put it in, but they may not teach the people how to service their water well.
Yeah.
It's literally just marketing.
Yeah.
Right. And what is a water well that nobody can fucking use? It's silly. And so Georgie Badiel is dope because
that's really great.
Yeah. You know, and then we work with Lava May. Lava May essentially is provides showers and personal care products and all the things that humans need, you know, that the homeless people, you know, are dealing with in California. Okay. And not everybody is homeless. Some of these people, you know, well, I shouldn't say that, you know, some of these people have jobs, but they just don't make enough money to have a home.
Right. Okay.
Right. So they're living out of their car. They're going to the gym to take a shower. Well, Lava May is dope because it actually provides showers, you know, And then we work with Days for Girls, which is a foundation that teaches these young girls about their period, feminine care, feminine health. We also still work with Happy Period as well.
You have a large roster of organizations that you work with for this cause. Why was that important for you?
And Red.
And
Red is the newest. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's like real gnarly shit happening on our planet, man. You know, I mean, real shit. Like people are really suffering in a really big way. And it really doesn't, a lot of times it doesn't have to be that way. And we can't take on everything. We can't, you know, we can't save the world, but it is important to us that where we can invest, that we do, and that we be at least a little bit of the change that we want to, you know, see and be. So,
yeah. One thing is really interesting about your background is, and I don't have the spiritual practice that you follow at my fingertips, but if you can one thing I like, that's a piece of your story that's really interesting. And for me, it's the conversation around spirituality and business and faith in business. And we saw that come through with you even coming, you know, even getting this dream in the first place. You were on this journey. Talk to us about your spiritual journey and how that really for you ties into your business development and also just success, your business resilience, I would even say, because, you know, it's probably supporting you on all of the highs and lows. But so how does it influence your business resiliency?
I mean, what you're talking about is Santeria Lukumi, which is a part
Santeria Lukumi.
Santeria Lukumi, which is essentially Yoruba, so it's a West African religion. But you know, when the slaves kind of traveled, and you know, one of the first places they went to was Cuba.
Yeah.
It's basically the culture that that community created, that the Latin community created. And when you know, slaves couldn't practice their religion, so what they did is they hid it inside of Catholicism, and they call it Santeria, which is basically practicing with, you know, for your love of the saints, right? And so they hid those saints into Catholic saints, and so in a lot of ways they were still practicing their spirituality, but I would say that that's just a part of my story. You know, at this point in my life, you know, Santeria really, it got me to this place where I am now, and where I kind of see everything. I don't believe in just one thing, right? I experience this water as God because I need it. I experience my food as God because I need it. I experience the air as God because I need it, right? I experience these trees outside that we're sharing the oxygen with, right? Because I need them. You know, I experience myself as God because I feel like I am, right? The sun, the moon, the stars, everything. You know, so I'm grateful for Orisha, which is another name for Santeria. I'm grateful for even when I was young and, you know, I was baptized. You know, I'm grateful for meditation. I'm grateful for all the spiritualities because, you know, in my opinion, humans made all these things up so that we could understand how to connect to something that's bigger, because it must be, right? Only I, you know, and again, this is just my opinion. I'm not saying what anybody should be, should not be, what you should believe in or not believe in. That is your business, whatever it is. You're just asking me my thoughts.
Yes,
so I'm
this
just
is about you.
What I feel.
Yes.
You know, but I kind of look at everything as one thing, and I experience it all as that higher being, you know, because because it requires all of these things in order for us to live on a daily basis. And that's one of the beautiful things about Orisha, is that, you know, all of the African gods are typically related to a natural element, the river, the ocean, you know, the moon, the lightning, the wind, you know, all of them are attributed to that. And there's other spiritualities that do the same thing. If you think about Hindu, if you you know,
Hindu,
if you think about Buddhism, if you think about, you know, if you think about American Indian traditions, right? Like, what all those things communicate is that all the things that make our lives what they are is really our religion, right? And so for me, I'm a little outside the box when you think about spirituality, because I don't see it as just one thing. I believe in everything, you know, because all of the religions are just a different road that are all going to the same place, you know. You know, so I'm grateful for everything that's gotten me to where I am in my life, and and I'm also grateful for this food and this water and my air and my skin and my heart and my lungs and my, you know, I'm grateful for all that shit. You know,
all of it.
I don't take it lightly. Yeah,
I appreciate you sharing a little bit more about that, because that is something that is unique about you, and I don't think we get to hear sometimes what are, you know, from an entrepreneur standpoint, what is sustaining them. You know, we see all of the hard work, but we don't always hear, hey, what is sustaining you? So that's really helpful to understand that you are drawing from a lot of different sources in order to get your strength, and all of it comes down to gratitude for you.
Yeah, I think that is my one of my most powerful religions is gratitude.
Yeah, I hear that a lot in how you speak. So I'm curious, what are some of the resources, whether it was along the way or now, that you lean on or that you have been using that you feel helps you to be a better entrepreneur or a stronger entrepreneur?
I think the biggest resource is just wanting to be well in my mind, you know, wanting to not be sad or unhappy, you know, and really making a practice out of what that means, right? So the things that are making me sad, the things that do make me unhappy, why do they do that? And if I am in control of why they do, then how do I be actionable about making changes so that I don't have to keep feeling that way? You know? You know, I think from a what now?
Oh, I'm building on that as well. From that's a nice personal way that you're using your resources to be more resilient, to be in well-being, I would say.
Yeah.
As a businesswoman, and it might not even be separate, but
it's not
from a technical standpoint or from an execution standpoint, from an innovation standpoint, from a like, what are you looking at for inspiration? What are you reading for resourcing? Is that something that's a part of your process or a part of your day as a businesswoman?
Yeah, I mean, all kinds of things are part of my day. Me being present is a big part of my day. I'm not a person who like has a ritual every day because that keeps me feeling like I need to do the same thing every day, and I don't want to live like that. You know, there are several books that I've read. Am I reading anything right now? Not really. You know, I'm just going with the flow right now. You know, so reading, meditating when I feel like I need to. You know, honestly, the shit that I'm going to tell you is going to sound like it's personal stuff. But one thing that you have to understand about me is that I have to take care of my mind because I have to build at such a big level. I have to think so big that I don't have the time to be in my head about personal shit.
You have to pour into yourself and I have kind of elevate and energize. Yeah.
I have to pour into myself so that I can pour into the company, so that I can
that.
pour into this innovation that we're working on, so that I can, you know what I mean?
And so be creative and not tired and all of that stuff.
You know, and honestly, I'm really grateful for all the conventional players that are in the market.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, and when I say conventional, I mean like Summer's Eve, Bacterial, you know, always. Kotex.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm really grateful for them, because they really created the roadmap of how humans buy feminine care, right? And so I pay attention to that, and I look at what, you know, we look at the data to figure out what's going well, what's not going well, how can we make this better, how can we clean this up. So that, I think that's a big way. But yes, I mean, a lot goes into it. The team goes into it. Building a relationship with Sai goes into it. Building a relationship with the team, you know,
all of that.
Allowing, I don't even want to say allowing, but giving space for them to be creative, and for them to bring their ideas to the table, and for them to run, you know, their departments within the company, right? Like trust. I mean, a lot goes into it, you know?
That's a big one.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, you know, you've been doing this going on 10 years now, which is such a big milestone to see that this is sustainable. This really is sustainable. This can be a household name like you would like it to be. It's growing. I'm interested in, from your experience, what are some pieces of advice that you would give to the Black on Shelf family, the Boss Fam, and I'm going to give a scenario so that you're able to kind of put it in context. You know, a lot of us are emerging entrepreneurs as a part of this. So what advice would you give, based on where you are now, to emerging entrepreneurs at the beginning or middle of their process, particularly?
I think at the beginning of the process, it's really important to understand why, you know, and to make sure that it's bigger than just money, because today's customer, today's human, they need depth. They want to feel something. They want to experience something. They need authenticity. They need real shit, you know? And, you know, and you are going to get more from your business if it comes from a really authentic, real place. And you want to, I think a big thing to do is to make sure that you are making products for humans, because that is sustainable. I'm not trying to say that building products only for one race with a focus of one race is bad. If that's your business model, that's none of my business, right? However, understand that when you do that, that communicates that that communicates precisely what it's communicating, right? And it puts you in a box. And if you make products for humans, because that's really what we all are, the color of our skin is like one thing. Like, but all the humans have eyes and noses and mouths, and all the women have vaginas, and all the men have, you know, have penises, and all the girls, for the most part, have breasts. Some men do too, however, right? But, you know, I'm just talking about generally. There's so many more things about us that make us similar.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying there. Yeah.
And I think than our color.
Yeah.
You know?
And I do, from a representation standpoint, there are times where I really appreciate when a brand is going out of their way to talk to an underrepresented group. You know, there are some brands where we really have not been we were not thought of. And I love those brands that say, I have to over communicate this because
I respect
going to get lost. And I respect that. And I value that so much. I admire that. But I also understand what you're talking about. Make products for humans, you know, think about everyone. And I think in some ways, those who do that, they are thinking about, because they're like, these are the humans that are not getting something made for them.
Because you can do both. You can do both, right? You can still talk to underrepresented groups and still make products for all the humans.
Right.
And I think I agree with you there. I think that it's beautiful. And I think that some people do have beautiful business models where they really over communicate to one group of people. Right. And, you know, but I think that if you want to have a massive thing, because the thing that we can't forget is, which is something that I learned from Simon, right? Hustling all your life is cool, but you're going to have to fucking retire. Right.
That's the goal, at least, right? Everybody wants to be able to retire.
It is, sister. But a lot of times we're not thinking about that. I mean, what are you going to do? What are you going to do when you've been doing this thing for so long, right? And it's gotten off the ground. Maybe you're making a few $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
Right. And you're focused on one group of people. And I'm not just saying that for Black people. I'm just saying in general.
Yeah.
Right. You need that thing to be worth millions so that you can, if this is the thing that you want to survive and live and eat off of, you need that thing to retire you.
Yeah.
Right. Especially, you understand what I'm saying?
I understand.
So,
I think people just have different models for, I've learned very quickly, like I went to business school, got a master's, and I have people in my life that are at all different, you know, experiences and stages. And I learned very early that people have different desires for what they want their future to look like. None is better than the other, but what drives me may not drive somebody else. I learned that for sure.
I feel you, and I agree with it. But the fact of the matter is that at some point, you're gonna have to retire.
Yeah.
Right. So if you can make your business a thing that can be for everybody, for all, you know, and everybody is relative based on whoever you want it to be. Right. But if you can make it so that it can live at a mass level.
Yeah.
Right. Then that is powerful.
Yeah.
And you may be able to retire at 40.
Yeah.
Rather
you know, as a marketer, I understand both, because then I also am like, there's riches and niches, and that's so true still. You know, there's a lot of opportunity in your field. You're talking to your capacity to talk to folks is huge. But, you know, there really are riches and niches. You can find one that has enough of an addressable market. The hair industry is a big one, right? You know,
the hair industry is.
Right.
And I'm only the only thing
I love this conversation.
The only thing that I can talk about is consumer packaged goods. I'm not talking to nobody else about anything else, because this is what I know.
This is your lane here. Yes.
I don't know technology. I don't know, you know, I delved in the service business, but I didn't really go for it. I can't talk to you about that. Right. But I can talk to you about products. Right. And, you know, and what I know about products is, if you want it to grow, if you want it to scale, if you want it to exit, the shit has got to be for humans. It's got to be. And you asked me for my advice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so I'm just telling you from my experience, in my opinion, it's got to be for humans. Right. Because what's the point of doing business if it's not, and this is just my opinion, once again.
Yes.
If the shit can't retire me, what am I doing it for? Right. And so that goes back to really understanding why you're doing what you're doing. Some people don't need a lot of money. Some people just want to live a very simple life. Cool. If that's you, right?
Right.
Then that means that your business only has to do so much. I don't understand that person though.
Right. We may not understand that person. We know they exist.
May not understand.
Right.
I'm talking to the people that think like I think.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with either way, because I respect both sides of it, all the sides. Even if you only want to sell to one group of humans, right? I respect all the shit. But if you're asking me my opinion, if you think like me, and you want to live on fucking vacation, which is what I want to do. Right. I don't want to think about what I'm eating. I don't want to think about how I'm working out. I don't want to think about how my house is getting clean. I don't want to think about none of that shit. I just want to know that it's being sorted and I'm just sitting right here, and I'm just living and I'm relaxed, right? In order for me to do that, that means I gotta bust my ass.
Yeah.
That means I have to make things for the general market.
Right. You need the largest addressable market that you can while still making it focused and targeted in some way. Right?
Exactly.
You gotta be known for something to the most people. Known for something specific to the most amount of people.
Exactly. So don't hear what I'm saying thinking that don't try to misconstrue. And I'm just not saying this to you. I'm saying this to anybody that's
other
listening.
people listening. Yeah.
Don't misconstrue what I'm saying.
We're trying
whatever your business model is,
specific to the most people. That one thing to the most people. That's what she's talking about.
Whatever your business model is, that is your business. If you're asking my advice, I only understand and want to make this thing as big as I can so that I can retire as big as I can. And in order for me to do that, it needs to be for everybody, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the last thing that I'll say is take care of yourself. Take care of your mind, right? Take care of your stress. Mm-hmm. Take care of your anxiety. Take care of if you are depressed. Yeah. Take care of if you are sad, if you do not like yourself. Take care of yourself. Figure out why, right? And if you can't figure out why, then try to figure out a different road, because it's really important that you take care of your mind, because you need your mind, because in order to do what you're embarking on, it's a lot, this is a hard road to toe, man. It really, really is. And in my opinion, you really have to be at your best as you possibly can be in your mind. So make sure that you're figuring out how to take care of that. And when you don't know, try to figure out how to figure it out. Go to the doctor if you have to take medicine, if you got to do acupuncture, if you have to eat well, if you got to meditate, if you got to talk to people, if you have to exercise, whatever it is that you have to do it. Right. And you'll figure it out. If you'll get there. But taking care of your mind and how you feel and how you think and how you take things on and how you project and all that kind of shit, that shit is important, because what's the point of all this if you're not happy?
You're such a big proponent of mental health and wellness.
I am.
Yeah, that's so important. I think what's great about this period of time is we see a lot more of our community, of the world, recognizing that and saying we have to acknowledge that this is real. We're seeing athletes on a major stage, more recently Naomi Osaka, saying, I'm not going to sacrifice myself just because I have a big opportunity. And, I'm sure that was a very hard decision. This is a life-changing game. It matters to a lot of people, but she couldn't sacrifice herself, right? And I think that's becoming more apparent. But also just, we're hearing more of those stories, which invites other people to perhaps do the same in their own life.
Exactly. Because you know what? James Baldwin said it really well, man. We're all going through the same exact shit. Mm-hmm. All of us, everybody, every woman at some point in their life is thinking about her weight, right? What she looks like in a dress, how she feels inside. We have emotions, we have hormones, we've got menstrual cycles, we've got PMS, all these, we're all going through the same shit all the time, right? Mm-hmm. Men are going through the same shit all the time. Women and men are going through similar shit all the time. Young kids are trying to figure out their body. They're trying to figure out identity, themselves, everything. If their identity, if they like themselves, somebody's picking on them at school. Everybody is going through the same exact stuff. And that is the thing that should pull us together, right?
Our human-centered experiences.
Yeah, because we're all going through the same shit. We're all doing the same exact thing. All of us are, Yeah. And, and so a lot of times we just need to give ourselves grace, because it's really not that bad, Mm-hmm. And a lot of times you think that you're the only one dealing with it, and that's just not the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I usually end the podcast with asking what does it mean to be Black on shelf? You can answer it, what does it mean to be human on shelf as well, if you would like. But I'm always curious about the personal experiences of those who come on, and what, you know, the full circle moment of them being able to bring their product to life and all the experiences that come with them to others. You know, it is a labor of love, as we could all acknowledge. So talk to me about what that represents for you.
Oh man, I am just grateful to be able to have the opportunity to make products for humans with vaginas. To be honest, it has nothing to do with my Blackness and everything to do with it, you know. And I'm grateful for all the sides of that, because in this society, I am a Black woman. In my society, in my mind, I am a human, an earthling that's having a human experience, right? And so, or a spiritual being having a human experience is probably better said.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm just grateful for the opportunities. I'm grateful for the team. I'm grateful for the humans that support our products. I'm grateful for the retailers that allow us to have their shelves. You know, I'm grateful for my contract manufacturers that make beautiful products. I'm grateful for all of our partners. I'm grateful for all of it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That is a beautiful way for us to end.